All right, we are recording already. Hello, everybody, and welcome
Hello.
to the August 6th edition of the Easthampton Mayor's COVID-19 Virtual Town Hall. So, Mayor LaChapelle, I'll let you take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone out watching right now, but also those who will be watching on YouTube later. This is my virtual town hall at its new time at 4 o'clock on Thursdays. Today we have a group I see out there in Zoom world from Williston Northampton School. Headmaster Bob Hill is here, and CFO Chuck McCullough. I've asked them to come to this town hall to walk us through what Williston will look like in the coming school year, given COVID-19. I'll also say over the last few months, I can't believe it's a few months, just working with the Williston Northampton team around COVID, and also the very generous donations of PPE and money donations to help the city with professional development. Very grateful for, and they've been really helpful, and always looking forward to work more and more with the school. So Bob, I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourself and just explain what a headmaster does, and I'm not sure, and Chuck the same thing, and then we can get to the presentation. Up.
You're muted.
You're muted. There you go.
Am I good now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, and hello, everyone. And it's great to be on this call, and the collaboration is so important. My name is Bob Hill, and I'm in my 10th year at Williston as head of school. And without making any false comparisons upward, I'm beginning to think that my job might resemble the mayor's job a little bit. So in other words, we have a community of over a couple hundred employees and 450 students when they're here. And at the end of the day, that involves a whole lot of decisions with lots of different groups of people, and just to take care of A to Z. So, I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't say shout out to Chuck, especially here on the call with us. But I have an administrative team of totaling 14 people. And it's pretty close to fair to say that nobody's had a real day off since February. A couple here and there, but not really. And so when we broke in March and had to plan that out, we immediately turned, as May and June came, to what might it look like to open school, which is what Chuck is going to be able to talk a lot about here today. The short version of what it's going to look like is masked and distanced and tested and tracked and de-densified. And we have the relative luxury as being an independent school of being able to make our own decisions in conjunction with your office, Mayor, and also the health board, obviously, and listening to the governor. But one thing we do have is space, and as you all know, being able to distance is critical. So we've got spaces that we never thought would be teaching in, or we're using. Just as a quick flash, four classrooms on the basketball courts, for instance, on the double basketball courts. So that's turning a wrestling room into a teaching space. So anywhere we can have my short mantra was big spaces, few faces, and we've been able to do that. And we've also been able to bring dormitories that we'd intended to retire back online. So we have more singles or single rooms for boarding students than we've ever had before. But it's been quite an adventure trying to, as we get close to opening now. And I'd say right now we're as we get about 2 weeks away from welcoming our first students back for quarantining. We're starting to hear from faculty members growing concern and families. And so we're navigating internal and external right now.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I remember talking months ago, right? And we all, have a lot of concerns or what ifs, and and making a plan and still making a plan, right? Based on shifting sand. But I like that, big spaces, few faces. I'm gonna use that.
Go ahead. Yeah, please do. Please do.
And Chuck, if you could introduce yourself, and then are you going to walk us through the presentation?
I sure will. I'm Chuck McCullough. I'm the CFO at Chief Financial Officer at Williston, Northampton. I've been at the school for 21 years. This is certainly, I'd say, one of the more challenging periods that I know I've experienced, and I'm sure that's true of just about anybody. But I do think that, as Bob stated, I think the experience level on the administrative team at Williston has just been outstanding. There's just a lot of, I don't know if it's a benefit or not, but a lot of white hair, which means a lot of good experience and a lot of exposure to what it means to run an independent school safely and making good decisions. So it certainly can get to the plan if you'd like, Mayor LaChapelle.
Sure.
Well, I'm going to share my screen. It says host is disabled screen sharing, so if someone can make me co-host.
There. That should be.
All set. Yeah, there we go. All right, and maybe you can tell me if that has come up on the screen. And
Yes.
And what I will do is I'll try to make it a slideshow look. Does that come up as a regular slideshow now?
Yes.
Great, excellent, good. Well, we'll go through the plan quickly, and then Mayor, if you feel like there's a time for questions or whatever, we can make time for that. But I think the key part for our plan really has been, and the most important part is that, the families and students from Williston that are really who we're working for are all wanting to come back to school. I think every one of them, that's really the strong emphasis, is that the families want to come back and they want face-to-face instruction. And I think the families want that personal interaction that is so important for any independent school or any boarding school. The primary goal has been all along, our marching orders have been the safety and well-being of the employees and the students. That has been the hallmark of any decisions we've made. We certainly want to also, in the midst of that, deliver the best possible program we can under the circumstances. And then finally, we just emphasize this to everybody. We all need to work together and we need to follow the guidelines. So those are really kind of the working principles for the opening of school that have really, been woven into all our decisions. The guidance that we're following, I think it's important to know that the state and local authorities have been incredible resources. And again, as Bob mentioned, the health agent been outstanding as a resource and somebody who we really have benefited from. I cannot say enough good things about the work. And when we've had questions for the police chief, fire department, the building department, or even the mayor's office, everyone has been terrific. And I like to think that we've tried to do our best when we've been asked to help as well to respond and reciprocate. The other things I think would be important to know is that we just touched base with the health board last week, just to give them a quick overview of where we are. And we'll probably do that one more time before we open school, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And if they hear anything, we want to make sure we hear it from them. And we also want to give them an idea of some of the decisions we're making. The medical director we have is Dr. Peter Elsey. He's practices up in Northampton, and he has also provided us excellent guidance. And then finally, we work with a number of institutions that are like us, a number of boarding schools in the Northeast, as well as organizations that support our field, which is the National Business Officers Association, National Association of Independent Schools, the Association of Boarding Schools, just to name a few, that are all in places that can give us great resources and guidance. The keys to our plan are, it's pretty straightforward, as Bob Hill had mentioned. Wear masks, keep distancing, and testing, contact tracing. those are the 3 pillars for this plan, and really, frankly, any plan. These are the things that are going to make us successful. There are a lot of other actions we can take care of that are going to give people peace of mind, but at the end of the day, these 3 areas, masks, distancing, testing, are going to be crucial for any plan and are certainly basic to our plan. First, masks. Just to let everyone know, we've distributed masks to all our employees. We have more cloth masks in inventory. So if people want more, we have them. We also have 4,000 paper masks on campus ready to go if need for visitors or just about anything else we would need. And if that becomes needed, we have the supply. Then finally, our campus store has Willison masks that are online, which have nice logos on them. We want to make sure that people have to put masks on. Maybe they will look stylish while they're doing it. And but the other part I would say is to just reiterate to the community how important mask wearing is, and we will reemphasize that constantly. We also have shields available for teachers. We're making those available if they would like them. Some folks have mentioned they might like that, so we are in the process of obtaining supply for that as well. As far as distancing goes, everything we've done distancing is embedded to everything we've either built or organized on campus, whether it's classrooms, in the dining room, exits and entrances to buildings, certainly plans for dormitories, all are with an eye towards making sure that we are able to create a 6-foot distance in anything and everything we do. Testing, really important part of what we're going to be doing. We're working with the Broad Institute at MIT, and part of that is that they have, the most important part is that they offer PCR tests, which are the most accurate tests that we can provide. And the other benefit of working with them is that by purchasing kits from them and dedicating lab time, we can get answers back on 12 to 24 hours notice. So it's going to be really important for us to be able to do that and have that system in place. The important thing for everyone to abide by when they're arriving on campus is they have to exercise what we call our safer at home policy for 14 days prior to coming to campus. And we're certainly providing the opportunity to, if people are asked to get a negative test before they arrive on campus, but we're also giving the opportunity for people, if they have difficulty getting that test, we're going to be able to provide them the opportunity to get that test themselves here. We'll have enough testing capacity to be able to do that. So anybody who cannot produce that first test before arriving on campus, they can come quickly to campus, get that test and leave and still do safer at home. And we will still be able to get that first test, which should be negative, obviously. The other thing we have is we have capacity on campus to do the antigen test on campus. We have testing equipment as well as supplies to be able to do antigen tests on campus. And though the antigen test is slightly not as accurate as the PCR test, we can get this answer in 15 minutes. So, It's really important that we're able to not only get the testing, but to be able to get the answers quickly. Testing, just to give people a quick idea of what our schedule is as people start to arrive on campus, we are going to have some students arrive as early as August 12th, but they're coming to August 12th and they are asked to quarantine. They may have traveled on an airplane, for instance. If they travel on an airplane, they are going to quarantine for 14 days, just as a precaution. We have testing available to be able to make sure that they're safe and negative. And also, we are going to be doing the PCR test on campus here, starting on the 24th of August, all the way through, right up through the time that our students arrive on campus to move in. So it's going to be everybody on campus. That means all students and all employees have to be tested and have to be negative. If they aren't, for whatever reason, they can't stay on campus and they have to make other arrangements. So So I think it's an important part for us to make sure that if everybody stays safe and does what they're supposed to do, and they get 2 negative tests, we're pretty sure that we have a very, very good base by which to start the year. 2 other aspects of testing that I think are important are the attestation program that we have. We're going to be asking, everyone on campus is going to receive a text or an email every day, and they have to respond back to say, you know, how are they feeling this morning? If for whatever reason somebody is not feeling well and they indicate something, particularly a student, we're asking them to stay put, and one of our health services staff members will go to them to see what the story is. I think this is, for day students, it would just mean they would stay home, and for employees would also mean they would have to stay home. Again, with our health services staff checking up on them to make sure they get, they ask some further questions about what the situation is. The other important part of this is contact tracing. We have a program that we're going to be using where it sits on everyone's smartphone, works in the background off of Bluetooth, and while you're on campus, the kind of the geo-fenced area that is our campus, we'll be able to track where someone is and who they've been in contact with. So if somebody ends up having a positive test for whatever reason, we can quickly determine who they were close to and where we should do some additional testing. I think this is a great program, and it's already in use with a number of institutions and a number of corporations. So we're thinking that this is going to be a critical, important tool along with the testing.
Mm-hmm.
Basic expectations for all employees and visitors is just wearing masks outside and inside all buildings, no exceptions. We're not going to say it's okay not to wear a mask in a certain spot or whatever. Just, we're wearing masks, and it's just, everyone's gonna have to get comfortable with that. 6-foot distancing. If you're sick, stay home. Regular hand washing with hand sanitizers all over campus now. And each day you must respond to the email or text letting us know of your health, your current state of health. And as I mentioned, contact tracing is important. And then we have some other controls that we have. We're going to have schedules for meals I'll talk about in a second, where certain groups will go to certain meal locations. So we have some control over the numbers. And also, we're going to be asking people to limit or eliminate personal travel. We're certainly eliminating any official travel for the school, but we also want to make sure we're very attentive to the fact anyone has to travel by plane, that will have to take on a whole other level of protocols. Other keys to the plan that I think are important are the school program. We're not going to be having any full assemblies. There's really just not going to be any reason to gather like that. Anything we will do will be virtual. No live performances. You know, for instance, our plays, they're going to be videoed and then provided to after the fact. And then athletic events, we are looking at what we might be able to do with athletic events for people to attend them. But there's going to be considerable controls on that, particularly indoors. And as I mentioned with athletics, just a little more on that, are we going to be doing interscholastic athletics? And there's some hope that some elements of that might be able to be done, but it still remains to be seen what final decisions will be made among some of the schools. Certainly no preseason athletics of any kind. Students are arriving back to start classes on September 1, and that is when we are going to focus on starting classes and obviously a few days before inviting everybody back through those testing protocols. But athletics will start September 1 with no preseason, obviously. The other part I would say is that there may be some possibility of just varsity competitions, but that won't even be considered until sometime in October. And sub-varsity teams will not be playing any contest among other schools this year. Things like transportation, working with a small cohort of schools, and just controls like boarders they're changing into athletic gear in their dorm room rather than the locker room, all with an effort to try to de-densify the school. Residential program. I think anyone in town might know that we're finishing the last of a dormitory project, last dormitory on our new residential quad. That will be open. The original intention was we were going to be able to close some dormitories, as Mr. Hill mentioned. But when the pandemic occurred, we realized that we had to repurpose those dormitories that were originally going to close. So we have 2 additional dorms open this year to spread the kids out. And we're glad that we were in that situation to be able to do that. And it increased the number of singles, which was an important step. But a lot of policies on dorm to make sure, again, that people are staying safe, following the masks, distancing protocols. One important point is that we're going to be controlling travel for the first 3 weeks. And really, kids are going to come to campus. If they've all been tested, they're all negative. For the first 3 weeks, we're going to limit the amount of traffic coming in and out of campus. So boarding students are really going to be asked to stay put and be on campus for 3 weeks. So really have that beginning of school be a very, very tight control on who is heading out of campus, off campus, and and making sure that control is maintained. Dining, important part of school life. Breakfast will just be boarders and faculty. Day students have come in the past, but we're just keeping the numbers down in the dining commons. So we're going to ask that it's just immediate family members, boarders, and faculty only. Lunch is the most complicated meal of the day, and again, the health department, the health agent were incredibly helpful in giving us guidance on how we set up the dining commons correctly and safely, but also the guidance with what we need to do in purchasing a new food trailer. We're doing that just so we can spread the students out and make sure that we have 2 dining locations now on campus, not just 1. With that, we're able to spread numbers out over 3 periods, 2 locations, and have used the food trailer in creative ways to for employees to dine. So we're really happy with these changes, but that was a really important step. And again, I commend the health agent for giving us the health agent for giving us guidance in that area. Dinner also is an important part of the day, but again, we're going to focus on the boarding students and just day students who may have a commitment that evening. And again, we're going to do it in 2 periods to spread numbers out. Other changes, and this would be similar to that of just about any other business or organization right now. A lot of plexiglass. We bought a lot of plexiglass this year. So we have a lot of plexiglass shields. Wherever there's customer service, face-to-face activities, a plexiglass shield is up. Our campus store, our technology office, our Dean of Students office have plexiglass shields. Other places like the science lab and the library tables also have that, and the dining tables and picnic tables on campus. Classrooms have been reduced so that we make sure that we have less desks and spacing in those locations. And as Mr. Hill mentioned, the new locations, we've created classrooms in places where we never thought we'd be teaching classes. A wrestling room now is a classroom. A dance studio is a classroom. And we convert those back to their purposes for the afternoon when people have to come in and dance or when they have to use the basketball courts. So we want to make sure that they're versatile, but we are going to be using them for teaching. We're also doing some changes we're just looking at ventilation in some buildings, and most of it has been in good condition, but we felt like we wanted to do some additional upgrades, so we're making some alterations and some changes there as well. And cleaning protocols, just give you an idea of what we're doing here. We had to just revamp everything we did as far as cleaning. And so I just highlighted the areas that we had to think about cleaning differently. So you can see that it's an array of areas on campus, all using new equipment that we have that I think people may have seen this, that they're the disinfecting, the electrostatic disinfecting guns that you might see on airplanes. Well, we've purchased a number of those so that we can use those in places daily to do a disinfecting spray. It's a food grade disinfectant that kills germs on contact and dries right away. It's quite a product. And we also are able to put another piece of equipment in place. It's called it's KVAC cleaning system where in places like showers and tiled areas where we can we have a significant number of supplies, so I don't think we should run out of disinfectant wipes this year.
Hello.
Hi. Did Chuck freeze? Oh,
Oh, now he's there.
there he is. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, but yeah, we still seeing the screen?
No.
Okay, so I should share it again?
Yes, please.
There we go. Is it back up?
Yes.
Okay. The quarantine plans, just so everyone's aware of the quarantine plans. If someone were to test positive, we've determined that about 70% of our students can move within 3 hours of the campus. So the immediate plan is to make them more comfortable where they can quarantine at home. But we also have capacity to be able to support students who may not be in that situation. We have isolation locations in the 2nd and 3rd floor of our health and wellness area. PPE equipment is available for our health services staff. They can gown up and be able to support students maybe in that situation. We also have some additional spaces on campus, Logan House and Swan Cottage, other dormitories that in the past we were just getting ready to cycle off. We've repurposed them so that they can be isolation areas as well. Just other controls on campus, just so everyone's aware, we have our Children's Center. We limited the number of people coming back to the Children's Center this year. We didn't add any families, but we are supporting the families that have been sending their children to the center, and as well as the Williston employees. We just felt that was important because, frankly, a number of the people who are sending their children to our Children's Center are first responders. We need to make sure that they have the support necessary to be able to do their jobs effectively, and child care is an important part of that. No rentals on the facility anywhere this year. This was a hard decision, but just to keep the density down on campus, we just had to make sure that any activities on campus were kept to a bare minimum. Summer programs we eliminated. That was a quick decision and an easy decision. Certainly working with the health department, we decided that very early. Again, great support from the health department in that area. And then our security staff is always reminding people who are coming on campus that just making sure that we keep groups that might come on campus to keep the density down to a very minimal level, and wearing masks. As we're going to be wearing masks on campus, everybody, we just want to make sure our visitors are too. And the last thing I'll share with you is just we're regularly updating our information, and the school has released a reopening plan. So I've left this website here for people to see, and please feel free to go to it. There's a great list of FAQs there, so that if people have any questions, a lot of what's been already asked is there for people to refer to. And as I noted, it's regularly updated. And then any other further questions, just from anyone in the public, just send it to communications@williston.com, and we will try to get back to you as quickly as we can. And other than that, I'll turn it back to Mayor LaChapelle.
Thank you, Chuck. I have a few follow-up questions. So upon the now with a list of states that need to fill out that Massachusetts travel form,
Yep.
How does that work with parents bringing their student to Williston? Do all the parents and the student all fill out that travel form?
My understanding is that if the parent is coming and dropping off the student,
Yeah.
if they're not staying, they're almost, there's a transiting
Yep.
aspect to that. And
Yeah.
I'd say in most instances, the families are literally bringing the student up, moving them in,
Yes.
and leaving and heading back to home.
Just to add to that, we actually have a computerized sign up, which so families of boarding students have to actually sign up to a time slot that allows them to
Great.
get into the dorm, drop their stuff off, and they're actually not even allowed in the dorm themselves, just the student.
Great. I know that's been the travel concerns and how that happens, and I know under the travel form, there are 3 exceptions, right, to doing the form I'm following, and one is dropping off students at schools. Right. So I just wanted to know if that was, and then the details that you gave us, it seems that there are very clear principles that are guiding your reopening, but there's also a lot of fluidity. Like with sports, it sounds like some will happen, but you're kind of keeping an eye on data trends and whatnot about how much happens, or if varsity plays or travel is did I follow that correctly?
Yeah. Hey, Bob, I'll just maybe ask Bob to respond to it first. My understanding from, and speaking regularly with the athletic director, is that the athletic directors are meeting of many of the schools,
Yeah.
are meeting regularly, and
Yeah.
they're updating their plans constantly based on the most current information. And I know that, you know, states, both Connecticut and Massachusetts, have been providing additional information regarding interscholastic sports. So, you know, a lot of that might change in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
In some other way that we're not sure of yet.
I would just jump in and add to that. I think that we've just left sort of the possibility of any kind of interscholastic activity. I think that it's very aspirational at this point. Mostly what we're trying to understand is get ourselves all road tested for those first few weeks of pretty intensive scrutiny of you know, the behavior of kids and lockdown.
Right.
I did hear one good point that that came through on my email today from a friend up in Vermont. Now I know Vermont is enjoying sort of the lowest rates in the country, but apparently the University of Vermont had about 600 students back this summer. And had 2 cases pop up, and that was it. And they were all contained, and they were all tracked and taken care of. So I don't want to be falsely optimistic, but I do think there is a way for a school our size to do this the right way and the safest way.
No, I see if the plan is extremely impressive. And then so the dorms are like it sounds like you're using every space you possibly can for your boarding students. Will there be does everyone have a single dorm, or how will you space the students out in their dorms?
So Chuck, you want me to jump in on that?
Yeah, if you'd like.
Yeah, so not all rooms will be singles. Our newest dorms are actually the largest rooms, and many of those will remain being doubles. Interestingly, we surveyed our boarding families, and for the most part, the returning boarding students were happy to live with their friend, and the families were happy to have them together. So there's certainly this pent up need that teenagers have.
The social need.
Yeah, the social need. They're herd animals, right? So, but then there are all sorts of very strict rules about what happens in the dorm, use of common rooms, use of bathrooms, things like that. So we think we've got a pretty good handle on that aspect.
2 more questions. One, so the calendar, I mean, the year's starting pretty typical. And then will you run a regular fall semester? I've seen other independent schools and other colleges say that this the fall semester will end like at Thanksgiving. Everybody goes home and they don't come back, and like there are online tests or whatnot. Have you guys thought about what makes sense for your calendar that far in advance?
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. So we're actually starting classes compared to the year we've just had 10 days early. So September 1st is actually 10 days earlier than when we were in classrooms this year. And then we're going to go up to, I think it's November 20th. And then once people leave, they will be gone until we resume in the new year. And,
Okay.
all bets are off on what that date's going to look like, but we say it's January 5th.
Okay. Right. Right. You plan for your best. And then and I don't, some time ago, I remember, I can't even remember when it happened. We all hopped on a call with other independent schools, and we talked about the health metrics. So when you're monitoring what's happening with all of these controls for Williston, the campus, how does that tie in with the state metrics? As far as like number of hospitalizations, will that guide along with what's actually happening on the ground in Williston as far as next steps? Like if everybody comes back on January 5th, or what the extent of sports will be?
Yeah, Chuck, you can jump in too if you'd like to, but absolutely. I mean, we don't see ourselves operating in a vacuum at all. We see ourselves operating in concert with Easthampton, Hampshire County,
Yeah.
What the state is saying and what the numbers are looking like everywhere. The last thing we want to do is sort of be a burden on any of the systems. So we're closely following all of that, which I think Chuck, you might add to, but I think it's probably a similar sense of what you think.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to help him stop the screen sharing. So sorry, I was just.
Oh yeah, so we're talking about following all the outside metrics that come our way about how that will impact what the school does. Certainly on the other side of the new year as well. We're really closely looking at any of the uptick that we're seeing on the other side of the state. With it was 1.77 for a while, the positivity rate. But I will just reiterate what because Chuck won't say this because he's too humble, but Mr. McCullough was masterful in procuring both the testing quantity of testing kits that we have, working out with the MIT Broad Institute, the ability to get this quick turnaround testing, and then also our ability to really demand the highest level of testing, which is 2 negative tests within a 5 to 7 day period before we even let somebody start classes and start being an active member of the community. We're setting a pretty high bar just for the gating, putting the gate at Williston.
Yeah, I would just add that I think the state has been, and I think we can all commend, I think Massachusetts as a state and I think the government has done a spectacular job at communicating regularly and giving us good guidance. So part of it is really just leaning on the good guidance that we've received as members of the Massachusetts community. And that certainly will help us and guide us in some ways as far as what decisions we would need to make.
And so I want to certainly at this point open it to questions. I did see a comment in the chat, and I'm going to read it out just so I know. Ryan, I'm doing your job right now. Sorry. All right. So the U.S. will be playing whack-a-mole with this virus for as long as there's no coordinated national strategy. Your plan to reopen when numbers in Massachusetts are heading upwards again will only invite a mole to pop up here. Smith College is doing the right thing. I would suggest you consult them for guidance. So I think it would be helpful to compare what's going on for Smith College and what's going on for Williston and numbers. And then I'll add a little question on the end of that. Do you have an idea? I mean, if the worst happened, do you have, I don't want to say evacuation plan, or is there a point of this plan where it just shuts down altogether when you start seeing? So I guess the first is the compare contrast with Smith. What metrics are you looking for to just shut it down, and do you have a plan for that to happen? That was a lot.
I'll start with that, and then Chuck can mop up for me because I'm sure I'll forget some things here. So Again, we're vastly different in terms of our scale. We have 250 boarding students, mostly from states that are not on the list, although Rhode Island just popped up on that list that the governor put out there. And it's precisely for whatever state you come from that we have the 14-day quarantine and safer at home, plus 2 negative PCR tests, which are the definitive tests. They're the ones that are 100% accurate. And so I think one thing that we're actually most confident about is that when we bring our boarding students back, 250 of them, not 2,500 of them, that which is the size of Smith College, that those kids, ages 14 to 18, will be COVID virus free. We do have a day population that live in Easthampton and in Amherst and in Northampton, and that's obviously something that we're going to have to rely on our Williston Compact, which is this kind of agreement that we're asking all families to abide by, is how you behave to be safe and healthy during the pandemic. But I see a distinction between us and between Smith College in that way, and again, I think that. And I have to be careful. I'm not trying to say this to sound as if I'm bragging, but I can't get a test very easily. But at Williston, once we get ramped up, we're going to have incredible testing capabilities, and none of us could have expected back in May and June that the rest of the country would be going as badly as it is, and that has obviously been a concern for all of us.
Yes.
And we hope that goes the right way. I think there'd be a lot less anxiety in New England if the South and the West were not at 10, 15, 20, 25% positivity rates.
I agree. I agree. And I commend the reliance on and the built-in part of testing in the plan. It makes a lot of good sense. And I'd also agree with just like the scale of, I even think about, doing that kind of testing for city employees, and the scale just wouldn't, it just wouldn't work. Right. But that said, with your eyes on what's going on nationally and with the test, is there a shutdown point for Williston with positivity rate? And is it possible to, with like your boarding students, to like what happens for them if the not so great happens?
Right, Chuck, do you want to grab that?
Well, yeah, I certainly can. So yeah, I mean, I think, I guess the unfortunate part, I guess, is that we've already had practice to do this once. Unfortunately, in February and March, we ended up having to just, basically get everybody evacuated and everybody home. And I have to commend the Williston families and the community, our immediate school community, for doing a pretty remarkable job at getting people off safely, and actually been coming back at some points and being able to pick up the things in dorm rooms and cleaning out dorm rooms in a very measured way and masked. So yes, the answer is, do we have a plan to do it? We've already done it, and did it pretty successfully. What would happen? I mean, we are prepared for the fact that some of these students may have some difficulty doing some traveling. So we have to be ready to be able to have those kids be able to stay and keep them quarantined or self-isolated if necessary. That's going to be probably a small portion of the community in that situation, but a number of colleges and universities had to, and schools like ours had to do that back in February and March. We were fortunate in the fact that I think we moved fast enough that we didn't have to do that. Right. But I think moving forward for this year, we have to be ready for the fact that many students are going to be able to evacuate quickly if we have to. But if we have to if some students, we have to accommodate some of them, we're going to be able to do that very safely, just given the space we have and the ability to be able to quarantine or self-isolate people.
Thank you so much. I do want to, the presentation was very thorough, and I know it's already up on your website, and I'm assuming if things change or as they get more specific, that will still be the link to go to just to see where you all are with your plans. I know, you know, best laid plans, and right now, best laid plans seem, you know, to be made out of Jell-O right now. So that's been my personal experience.
Right.
Does anybody in the community and watching right now have a question for either Bob or for Chuck?
I see that Louise has her hand up. So if you have a question, Louise, you can unmute yourself now and ask it.
Yeah, thanks. I have a couple of questions. I agree. It sounds like a very good plan. I heard that this was the topic. I actually read what you had on your website last night. It's a horrible situation. I don't know. Yeah, and as a Northeasterner right now, the fact that the rest of the country, I mean, is infuriating and scary, and it is what it is, and we all have to deal with it. So I've got two rather small questions as a resident. The first one is parents, especially from out of state, dropping their kids. They're sort of in transit. Will they stop for a meal in local restaurants? And I'm kind of saying from some states, not others. It's a difficult question, but it's that kind of thing. And the second, and these are sort of small points, but I can just see people, is do the boarders, do they stay on campus the whole time? I've never previously known if they're free on weekends to wander around. I thought I'd sit, you know, it didn't matter. Welcome. But in this situation, what is their status? Are they free to leave campus, and associated questions?
So let me see if I can get those, and again I'll ask Mr. McCullough to sweep up the bits I leave on the floor. Part of our compact asks the families that are driving their students to drive directly to the school and not to stop anywhere other than, you know, if they have to gas up their car. So they're not supposed to stop in a restaurant and eat. They're just supposed to come right to school, and that's all part of our safety protocol. And then we'll test them again when they get here. So that's
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then on the first 3 weeks of the school year is going to be really tightly controlled and locked down. Honestly, I'm not sure we've decided quite yet if we're going to allow a student to walk down and curbside pick up a pizza yet. I think we're going to restrict it to everything. Just staying on campus for the first 3 weeks, and then phasing out some of the tighter restrictions as warranted. But everything we're going to be doing really throughout the whole year, we'll be in very close touch with the mayor, and we'll be in very close touch with all the officials that we need to, so that we're doing the right thing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Bob and Chuck from Williston?
There are no more questions in the chat. If there's anybody listening on the call who would like to unmute themselves to ask a question, now would be an appropriate time to do so.
Great. Seems like we're good. So thank you both for joining us today. And this will be posted, Ryan, on Easthampton Media. Where can people get the recording?
It will be available first on Easthampton Media's YouTube channel. You go to YouTube, type in Easthampton Media, click on our channel. It'll be one of the first ones in there, and there's also a Mayor's Update playlist that has all of these recordings through COVID and beyond.
Great, thank you very much. So thank you again for coming on and for the very thoughtful plan. I don't see her on this call, but having you on first was a seed put into my head some time ago by a person who was watching one of the first ones of this, and says, you know, as we get close, can we get the team from Williston on to talk about what's happening there? So thank you. You know who you are. And we'll be announcing our next virtual town hall, which will be next Thursday at 4 p.m., working on a couple of speakers, and also always enjoy and welcome comments, but also suggestions of what you would like to see during this time. I hope you are all safe and healthy. I encourage everyone to stay home as much as possible and to cover your nose and your face, stay apart, and wash your hands. It's really our best set of tools to combat this rather insidious virus. So be well, take care. Thank you, Ryan and Easthampton Media. Good night. Thank
Thanks
you.
very much, everybody. We'll see you next week.